They call this the tiger cage, right? Because this is where the big cats come out and play. Right, we're about to show these boys what's up. Show world-class form. Texas Rangers, New York Yankees. They're not gonna know what's gonna hit them. Contracts are gonna be huge. Contracts are gonna be all over the place. Nobody's gonna fucking know.
Welcome everybody. We're here to take questions from the great Hambino. You, go.
Oh, Hambino, I've never heard of you before. What have you accomplished?
Have you never heard of the great Hambino? Are you serious? Back in 1991, I got 2 trophies. That's right. One for most improved, and another one because they accidentally gave me a female trophy the first time. Next question.
All right, next, you.
Any nicknames in the clubhouse?
Oh, hell yeah, I got nicknames in the clubhouse. They call me the Medusa because I get stuck.
What's your daily regimen like, Hambino?
Oh man, are you serious? First, we have first breakfast, right? That's usually honey buttered chicken biscuits. Chicago, don't mess that up for me.
You know, it's crazy. A lot of people, they don't realize what it takes to get into world-class athletic shape. You gotta be careful about what you put in your body.
Then we have second breakfast, which is either nachos or 32 hot wings, depending on if it's arm day or leg day.
You can't be messing around being unhealthy. You gotta make sure you stay hydrated. Keep both hands firmly on what's important.
That's right. You, what's your training process?
Well, my training process is to go to the tiger cage. That's right, I'm talking 700 fastballs a day, swinging all day, scholarships all day, home runs all day, MLB, Major League, they ain't ready for me.
All right, you, question.
We've heard about your time playing second base in Acuña, Mexico. What do you have to say about your allegations of chupacabra trafficking laid against you?
All right, no more questions. That was a good press conference. Let's call it a day now.
Sound good.
Yeah.
Bases are loaded and the score is tied at the top of the 6th episode of Pouring Pixels. He's Crotto, guaranteed to take you to third base every time.
Hideo Zago, scoreless after 2 seasons.
And we're here today to talk about Baseball Stars 2.
That's right, Baseball Stars 2, released in 1992 by SNK, released on the home console, the Neo Geo, the Advanced Entertainment System, and on the arcade on the multi-visual system.
Right, known as the MVS. Baseball Stars 2 is great. When you pick it up and play it, right away you see elements that are really different for games of that time. For a sports game, we had comic book style animations and graphics. We had sound that was very clear and not muddled like other systems that you have at the time. This allowed for things like play-by-play commentary and for even names of the players being spelled out as well.
Yeah, and the controls were fucking amazing on this game. They were so precise.
Right.
Let me explain a little bit. I mean, you see these controllers for the Neo Geo, they're freaking amazing. Look at this, they're beautiful.
And they're massive, like
Yeah.
they really bring the arcade experience home.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see it's got just a simple A, B, C, and D.
Right.
All you did, A, just for batting, or for pitching, you know. B, when you hit a ball, all you do is spam it and you can run faster to the bases.
Right.
When you do C and you're batting, you can bunt. D is just to call timeouts, to change pitchers, to do a power play,
Pinch hitters, updates, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you can even call your manager and freaking like buy power-ups with them.
Right.
You'll see like a George Steinbrenner come out like, what do you want to buy? It's amazing. It's very cartoon-like as you mentioned.
Right. Neo Geo did a great job of taking what would be ultimately considered a boring game like baseball and adding over-the-top animations and these characters that look nothing like real players, which is really great, and they were just very eccentric on their own.
Yeah, and it only had like 2 modes, you know. Well, basically it had the pennant, you know, and it had the versus mode.
Right.
But it also had a hard mode and an easy mode. But it was very simple. Like the easy mode had the city teams.
Right.
You had the New York Monsters. You know, the Taipei, whatever, the Seoul.
Yeah, whatever their corresponding mascots were.
And then the hard mode had countries. It had like USA, Japan, Korea.
Right.
And basically, hard mode, you had to control the outfield. They would not run automatically towards the ball once it got hit.
Right. In hard mode, essentially, you were responsible for making sure you were underneath that ball. Now, in this game, when you do hit a fly ball, it's already hard enough to gauge where it's going to land. As long as you played on easy mode, at least you had somewhat of a shot to get there because the computer would take you there normally. But for a more advanced play, you had the capability of controlling each one of these characters individually.
Right. And Zach, I mean, you gotta tell them about why this game is so good these days. I mean, there's so many issues with licensing these days.
Right. What's really great about this game is that it takes the element of baseball, it takes a sport, and then tells the story itself. We're not trying to have Derek Jeter and Jose Canseco give their likenesses and licensing rights to us so we can play this game, right? We're just taking the pure game of baseball and creating our own world with it. Neo Geo and SNK created their own characters to be the baseball stars. You had some regular names like Jack and Sergio, and then you got into ridiculous names like Hacker and Alien and
Zombie and Medusa.
Right, things like that. And that was important and great because it focused on the game itself. We're not worried about being an MLB simulator, right? We're just worried about playing a fun baseball game. And so to do that, all the characters involved had to be unique.
Yes, and that makes it so easy to port these days. Because Baseball Stars 2 is now on the Switch. It's on the PS4. They've been brought over, and you see like the Genesis Mini that's coming up like later on. Everybody wanted NHL '94 because it's one of the best hockey games. NBA Jam, but they can't because those players don't exist. Those licenses are a pain in the ass. This doesn't have that problem.
Exactly. We can still have a baseball game without cutting through 7 fucking miles of red tape just so we can get the MLB or NBA's approval, right? Baseball Stars 2 really allows us to just play the game for the sake of playing the game because it is fun.
Yes, fun is the magic word, and there's so many other games by SNK that have that fun magic, like Super Strikers.
Right.
You see the teams, it's Mexico, it's Brazil, it's Italy, they have the colors, there's no names, you don't worry about it, but they have those stats that are similar.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about a FIFA thing, you can just play them on the Switch now.
Right, and they're just as exciting and visceral as anything that would mimic real life. The quick animations and cutscenes that came with hitting a home run or scoring a goal in Strikers was the kind of things that really made an exciting experience when playing these games.
And you see like when you hit a foul, that ball, I love that when that ball comes up like in 3D visual.
Right, the animation comes up to you, and that was really great because there was so much motion and so many things happening that you didn't see in other games during this generation.
So many action cutscenes, quick gameplay, 9 innings, and it's fast. It's not like an MLB baseball game on the PlayStation nowadays.
Right.
It doesn't take like an hour for a freaking game. You're done like in about 8 minutes or so. It's done.
Right, it's arcade action. Yeah, it's fast, quick, good to go. And when you take a look at the game, there's a lot of things that are visually pleasing as well. When the batter's in the batter box and the pitcher's getting ready to throw, you see actual portraits of the individual players both on the mound and at bat, and there are certain things that attribute to their stats at the time. They're not just there for the sake of looking pretty. If you pay close attention, you can actually see that the players are getting tired or weary, or they have a hot bat and they're on fire, consistent with the portraits that you see.
Right. As the pitcher, you'll see the pitch count.
Right.
And as they go up, you'll see them like chewing like real confident, like as they get more tired, they're kind of like. And when there's people on bases, they change their expressions, like they're turning to the side.
Yeah, they start
like,
sweating and shit. Yeah, they get real nervous.
Yeah, and once there's no like power bar or anything, but as the innings go, you'll see them pitch slower and slower and slower. That's when you hit the D button and call in a different pitcher for you.
Right, left-handed, right-handed, whoever's not so tired still has some gas in the tank. But it's great because there's not just some sort of rudimentary bar that says, okay, pitcher energy is low. You had to actually pay attention to how they were acting, how they were pitching, and how those particular profiles would look. And that was a whole new element that came into more or less the meta of a quick-paced arcade game, which we never saw before.
Yeah. And if you see the visuals, if you have like bases loaded, that's when you want to save your power-ups, because you build them up, or you can buy them from the manager. When you use a power-up at bat, you'll notice that the bat gets visibly bigger. It gets like a thick-ass bat.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those kid bats, those plastic ones.
Right.
and then their power goes up, and that's when you want to get the home runs.
Right, that's when you have a really hot bat, right? You know, and you see things like particular batters' hit averages, things of that nature, which are really consistent with the size of the bats that really come up, which makes for interesting gameplay as well.
Yeah. But at the end, as I said, the reason we picked it is just because it's so damn fun.
Right. From back in the 90s to 2019 here today with the most recent port on Switch, Baseball Stars 2, it's a killer. You know, we try to take an unbiased look at all the games we feature, and it's really hard to nitpick things that are wrong with this game. I mean, it's unique and obscure enough in its own right to be playing it on a home console. Look at this thing. The AES system with Neo Geo actually has an arcade board within it. That's why they were so expensive at the time. Look at these cartridges. I know it looks like a Barrett 50 cal fucking sniper clip, but that's because the cartridges had their own massive chip, almost their own board. It's not even fair to call it a chip within themselves.
Right. And this thing retailed at $650 when it first came out because it was basically an arcade at home for you. And as you said, even the cartridges were very pricey. Look at this, 2 boards. This thing is some monster. Now, this thing was released as a 24-bit system back when it was competing with the SNES and the Genesis, which were 16-bit. Technically, it's got 2 boards. It's got a 16-bit and an 8-bit, so they kind of like did the math. It's a 24-bit, but there's no such thing.
Right. The game only processes at 16-bit because that's all that was functionally capable because of the motherboard that it was laid on. But what they got away with was having additional elements of visual and sounds on one board, like the 8-bit board, while having the actual gameplay mechanics on the 16-bit board. So because of that, they were legally able to call it a 24-bit system.
Yeah, if they wanted to. There was so much jargon back in the 90s, like blast processing Sega.
Right.
24-bit Neo Geo.
Whatever sounded great to sell consoles, right?
Yeah.
But what was really interesting about this is, like Crado said, this was bringing the arcade home. This thing cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Cartridges cost anywhere between $100 to $300 in 1990 money. We're talking 20, 30 years ago. This is what this cost. So, I mean, your dad had to be Euler or some you know, to kind of get this when you were a kid because they were so rare and they were so expensive, but because they were so powerful for what they were at the time.
Right. The thing is that this is the arcade game, frame by frame. It is the exact same thing. This cartridge is basically the cartridge that you put in the MVS system. It just looks different. The other ones were just black and white. They were a different shape, but they actually have converters on the Neo Geo to play the arcade cartridges.
Right, and that was great about the Neo Geo MVS systems, multi-video systems, is that if you took one of those arcade cabinets and pried it open, you would actually see these cartridges in there, because if you remember, those old school SNK Neo Geo cabinets had the capability to choose between 4 or 5 games. That's because they had 4 or 5 different boards in the form of these giant motherfucking cartridges.
Another thing that was great about the Neo Geo is there was no region lock. You could buy the Japanese games, the American games, didn't matter. They all worked.
Right. They were just a game manufacturer for the sole purpose of being a game manufacturer. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to highlight them today when it came to this masterpiece of a baseball game.
It wouldn't be an episode of Porn Pixels without beer. And in this episode, it was a no-brainer as we went with Ziegen Bock Texas Amber from Ziegen Bock Brewery in Houston, Texas.
That's right. It's summertime in Texas and it's baseball season. And when it comes to a beer that's synonymous with baseball, at least in the Lone Star State, Ziegen Bock is everywhere. This is marketed as a beer for Texans by Texans. But if anybody takes any sort of interest and maybe investigates a little bit, they'll see it's actually owned by Anheuser-Busch. And we know, boo, for big distributors. But one really interesting thing about this beer is that having the Anheuser-Busch ownership behind it allows distribution for it to be seen everywhere amongst ballparks. Whether or not you're going to a minor league game, a major league game, as long as it features Anheuser-Busch beer, then you're going to see Ziegen Bock there. And Ziegen Bock is amber that is fermented, made, and brewed in the fall to then be bottled and released in the spring, aka baseball season. And what's really great about all these Texas Bocks is that Ziegen Bock, translated from German, actually means billy goat.
Billy Goat.
Yeah, billy goat. For some reason, the Germans are all about their goats when it comes to making their special brews.
Well, you know what they say in German, you must drink the piss of the ram. You want to learn how to drink that beer.
Right, and then they ask why, and they say, well, fuck, if you can drink ram's piss, you can pretty much drink anything.
If you can drink ram's piss, Fuck, you can drink almost anything.
Exactly.
But luckily this isn't Ram's Fist. This is a 4.9% amber that's a really easy drink. It's more malty than it is hoppy, and so it's a lot different from some of the other beers we featured, like the IPAs that really hit you in the face with those hops. This is a real easy drinkable beer, perfect for summertime, perfect for baseball season, and when we're playing a game like Baseball Stars 2, it really adds to that aesthetic of enjoying baseball for the pure sake of enjoying baseball when you're enjoying it with Ziegen Bock.
It's even got that baseball smell. That outfield smell that of being out in the stadium, isn't it?
Right, that red mud on the pitcher's mound, right? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pitchers and hitters of all ages, that's gonna do it for us. We'll do better next time. Thank you for liking and subscribing. He's been Prado.
He's been Ozako.
And you've been fan-fucking-tastic.
Yes, you have. Play ball!
So as you can see, the greatest performance ever sold in any stage ever. The great Hambino, just the best. Anything everybody's ever seen in life pales in comparison to what they witnessed here today.